Have you ever looked at one of your portraits midway through and thought, well, this is officially ruined? It started out fine, but now it is stiff, it's overworked, and somehow it's less alive than when I began. You might think the only option is to start over, but that's actually not true. And today I'm going to show you how to inject life and looseness back into an oil painting without making a total mess of it. I used to believe that loose painters just painted loose. Like it was some kind of magic ability they were born with. But when I really started studying artists like Sargent or some of my more contemporary favorites like Richard Schmid, I realized something. Most of them actually started as more academic, tight, meticulous painters before they learned to let go. In fact, some of my biggest breakthroughs in looseness happened not when I was starting fresh, but when I was actually forced to bring energy back into a painting that had already tightened up to a point that I thought I was beyond repair. And trust me, this is a skill worth learning. So if you're sitting there frustrated with a portrait that's gotten stiff, don't worry. You're actually in a better place than you think. You just need the right approach. And if you're tempted to think that I'm just kind of giving you some random platitudes or some generic advice, know that I actually had to get this advice myself. I remember distinctly being in a workshop with Daniel Keyes, and everyone who was taking the workshop was, of course, marveling at how loose and painterly his brushstrokes were when he was working on this amazing floral demo. And everyone was asking, how do I get looser? How do I get looser? And Daniel was explaining that the real skill isn't actually in just getting loose. In his opinion, the real skill is when you have tightened up a painting and you've really gone too far with overworking it, and you actually learn how to inject the looseness back in. And that was a light bulb moment for me, because up until then, I had always believed that the only way to really create a loose, effortless looking painting is for it to be effortless from the get-go. And that you just have to avoid making mistakes at all costs. And that's really the only way that you can get to the end product that you want. And this made me realize that, hey, if someone like Daniel Keyes is routinely tightening up the painting too much and successfully bringing back the looseness, it really gave me permission to not feel defeated on paintings that I was overworking. And that's exactly what I channeled in this painting that you're seeing here today. I was working on this demo for a Portrait Society of America live webinar that I gave last month. And the intention was for this to be a 2-hour demo on loose painting. And so I went ahead and I turned on my camera to go ahead and record this demo for the webinar. And I said, all right, my timer is set for 2 hours. Let's go make a loose painting. And the clock was ticking and I got to the 2-hour mark and I just wasn't quite thrilled with it. And I said, you know what? It's looking pretty good. Let me just go 15 minutes over and I can just speed up the footage just a little bit. And this way I can get to an end product that looks loose and painterly and I like it and everyone attending the webinar will like it. And it'll be fine. It'll only take me 15 more minutes. Well, 3 hours later, I realized that I was not loosening up this painting anytime soon. And in fact, all I had succeeded in was really working it to death. And at that point, the demo had gone on for so long that I realized the best thing I could do for that webinar was just to start over on a piece that would set me up for success for more looseness. Now, it's not to say that I couldn't make this painting loose, because I'm going to show you in this video how I loosen it back up, and I'm going to talk you through what made it happen. But just for some added context, the reason that I started over is because Portrait Society was limiting me to 2 hours. So even if I could get it loose again, I was definitely well over my time limit for this particular painting. So I decided to use this painting for you all here on YouTube instead, and I thought it would be fun to walk you through exactly how I went from this pausing point where I had gotten a lot done on the painting, but it just didn't have the feeling that I want. It didn't have the looseness. It felt really stiff. It felt overworked, and what exactly I did to loosen it up. So let's get into it. If your painting is feeling too rigid, too tight, too overworked, here are the tips that I used on this painting. First things first, shift your focus back to the big shapes. So overworked paintings usually happen when you get lost in the details too soon. And one way to reset is to squint and look for the big shapes again. Forget the tiny eyelashes or wrinkles for now. Think light versus shadow and just big impressions of shapes. Don't get sucked into the details of the anatomy of the eye or a highlight on the nose or the lip. Just think about the overall light and shadow pattern and the kind of hazy, blurry overall feel of their proportions. I have a lot of different tricks up my sleeve to help reinforce this, and I've talked about a number of them on my channel before, so I'll make sure that I link to some videos that can give you more of these tips in depth, but just offhand right now, some things that I love doing. One is forcing myself to back up and look at the painting from a distance and then squint just a little bit. For me, I can also just take off my glasses and it does the same thing as squinting. Now, this will depend on if you wear glasses and if so, how strong they are, but a really easy solution for me. If you find yourself knowing that you should back up and squint and you don't do it often enough, one really easy trick is to move the palette that you mix on to your backup space. So if you have your painting on the easel, rather than having your palette right by the easel, go ahead and move that palette 10 feet away. So you have to get 10 feet of distance between you and the painting just to be able to go mix up your paint. Some other tips that are really useful would be turning your reference and your painting upside down so you can no longer focus on the details of your subject's anatomy. This way, it forces you to see shapes, not eyes or noses, which ultimately helps you to avoid over-detailing. Now, the next trick that I'm going to share is that I like to have a really bulletproof plan. I was actually just discussing this just yesterday with my student Karen. She was working on a painting and she ran into an issue where she was like, "Can you tell me if this is done?" And of course, I'm not the person who can give her the answer to that. She's the only person who can truly answer that. But I did give her a tool to help her come to that conclusion. And that was to have a really clear mock-up of what the final version of the painting looked like. Now, for students that I work with directly, I actually go in depth on exactly what steps you can take to do this, and that's what I did for Karen. I gave her some suggestions of how she could use various digital tools to 100% visualize exactly what did the final version of this painting need to look like. And it turned out she just needed to make a couple of subtle value adjustments, and her painting turned out absolutely gorgeous. I will share it here so that you all can see. But going back to this painting specifically, I did the same thing. I had a really clear mock-up of exactly what I wanted this painting to look like. And so when I was stuck in this really awkward, overworked phase, I could just literally compare where the painting was at to the mock-up. And I could ask myself, what are the differences? Why do I like the looseness of the mock-up? And why do I feel like my version is way stiffer? And there wasn't really one big thing that was jumping out at me. It was just things like my value relationships weren't quite subtle enough, or edges on the nose weren't quite soft enough, or had some incredibly subtle drawing issues in areas like the eye that I could just adjust and suddenly everything would click. And funnily enough, that's exactly what happened. After I took a break from this painting to go actually make my Portrait Society demo, and I came back to this, it had been probably about a week. Paint had dried, and I just started by looking at the painting side by side with the mock-up of what I wanted the finished version to look like. And I just looked for the differences. That was it. And funnily enough, I realized that I was actually way closer to finished than I had believed. And it only took me a few minutes of additional work to get this piece all the way over the finish line. So you might be thinking to yourself right now, like, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. I could see how having that mock-up would really make this easier. But Chelsea, I am not you. I have no idea how you made that mock-up or even got that reference. Well, what I will say very quickly is that the reference itself, and I will show you the original reference, is from Howard Lyon. This came from one of his amazing reference packs. I use them really often when maybe I'm just like uninspired or I don't necessarily have my own reference handy that I would like to paint from that day. And then what I did was I took this reference and I took it into Photoshop and I simply overlaid images of things like bare canvas or snippets from my previous paintings to show certain kinds of brushwork until I arrived at this mockup. Now, this whole process is quite in-depth, as you can imagine. I do have some videos in my channel where I walk through this process, but I'll do you one better. I'm going to be hosting a live webinar this coming Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to be walking through exactly how really good planning and mockups set you up for success in your painting journey. So I'm going to go through how we can essentially eliminate unnecessary variables that confound your painting practice and almost treat this like scientists and show how a really good process and a really good plan for your work can ultimately make loose painting way more easy, effortless, and fun. So if you would like to join me for that, check out the link down in the description. I will also pin a comment with the link to register as well. To tell you the truth, these 2 tips alone really encompass most of what I needed, though, to get to my desired goal for this particular painting. But obviously, I'm going through a lot more thoughts on any given painting than just these 2 steps. It's more nuanced than what I can capture in a YouTube video. So really quickly, here are some other considerations that were coming up as I was working on this piece. The first was to create more variety in my edges. So making sure that I had some areas where my brush marks had a very hard edge and there was a very crisp distinction between different shapes. Making sure I had some that were really softened, and making sure I had some that were altogether lost. So some examples of this on this particular painting. This painting started to really click when I really softened and rounded the edges over the bridge of the nose into the shadow side of the face. Some great areas for lost edges would be between like the hair and the shadow side of the face. They run together entirely. Now, there aren't a ton of super hard edges in this piece, but a pretty easy one would be the distinction between her hair and the background. But you'll notice that it's not one note. I kind of go through these rhythms in the painting, making sure that it's not just solidly a hard edge or solidly a lost edge. I kind of go from hard to soft to hard to lost and on through that kind of cycle of edges to create a little bit more rhythm in the piece. Next, because I had a really bulletproof mock-up for this painting, and again, I'll be going through that process on Monday's webinar in case you're curious, I could go ahead and make some intentionally loose brush strokes that came directly from that plan. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Chelsea, I want to paint loose because I want it to be spontaneous. And wouldn't planning out these brush marks really defeat the purpose? Well, think of it like calligraphy. Every brush stroke should have a purpose. You should have an intention. Yes, naturally, everyone is going to be a little bit different. We're not machines after all, but having a mock-up that really shows where brush strokes look good and where they don't can help you to really avoid spinning your wheels and putting down marks on the canvas that ultimately you're going to have to redo or cover up. This happened for me in the final stages of this painting when I was working on the shadow side of her face and putting just like little ringlets of hair kind of coming out from that shadow side. I put a brush mark in a place that wasn't quite where it was in my mock-up, and immediately I saw why it didn't work. And it was just a really great reminder to go off of the mock-up. If the mock-up doesn't have a mark there, don't put a mark there. And then finally, almost as a counterpoint to that, it is okay to have spontaneous things happen provided that you like them. That is naturally a consequence of painting loosely. We're going to put down marks that are unexpected. Some of them, ultimately, we're going to have to cover up or redo, and some of them will surprise us, and ultimately we'll decide to keep it in the piece. This really goes back to the mindset that I think you have to embrace with loose painting, where you detach yourself from perfectionism and having to control every little thing, and to have every painting be as perfect and unimpeachable as it can possibly be. We've got to make messes. We've got to try things. That's how we make some of the most interesting marks. But we have to balance that with having a clear plan that sets us up for success. I don't think you can truly have one without the other. If you don't have a really good plan or a good vision for what the work is going to look like going in, you could maybe stumble on the right answer, but it would be really difficult to get a really good result like that over and over consistently. And on the flip side, you don't want to get so locked in to having a rigid plan that you have to follow to a T that there's no spontaneity. That's a really easy way to feel stuck and like you aren't growing. So I really try to straddle that difference when I am at the easel. I'm trying to be intentional, but I'm also really open to really pleasant surprises, happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. Now, if you're nodding along thinking, I need more help like this, you're in luck. That live webinar that's coming up on Monday at 1 Eastern is going to be where I'm going even deeper into this process, how to plan for looseness before you start, how to build up the skills to paint loosely in the first place, as well as the mindset tips to ultimately make sure that you see your way through all the way to the point where you are now, where you're stuck, to the point where you can really create in the loose style that you've been craving in your work. If you want to join, I'll drop that link in the description for you. It's totally free, and I would love to see you there.